rotation of a point in a graph. Now all of you must know how a graph looks. Now in the center we have the point 0, and this horizontal line is the x-axis and the vertical line is the y-axis. On the right hand side of 0 we have x, and on the left hand side we have minus x. Now what are these x and minus x? If I write the points, then the points here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and so on. On the left hand side of 0, the points would be minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5 and so on. Now on the top we have y-axis in the vertical axis, and at the bottom we have minus y-axis. Similarly to the x-axis we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in minus y we have this as minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5 and so on. Now you would think how to tell which point are we discussing. So see, first we write it in the form of x comma y. So x is the point which we calculate by looking at the x-axis. So for example, if my point is somewhere here, what we do is that we make a line like this, extending from both the horizontal as well as the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, we can see that the point x is 4. So I'll write this point as 4, comma, and from the y-axis, I can see that the point is 3. So it is 4, comma 3. Now let's discuss about this point, for example. So first we have to see the x point. Let's extend till the point, both the axes. So this point we have the x-axis as minus 4 and y-axis as again as minus 4. So the point is minus 4 comma minus 4. This way we can mark each and every point on a graph. Now coming back to the topic, we can see this is known as the first quadrant, this is the second quadrant, this here is our third quadrant, and this is the fourth quadrant. Now in the first quadrant we can say that the points are x and y, as we can say x is positive and y is positive. In the second quadrant we can see that x is negative. So in this case what we do is that we write the point as minus x and the y-axis is positive, so y. This is the coordinate for second quadrant. In the third quadrant, x and y both are negative, so the point of x and y would be minus x and minus y. In the fourth quadrant, we have positive x-axis, so x, and negative y-axis, so negative y. This is how the plotting of graph, plotting of points, as well as naming the coordinates is done. Now checking on if the question says to rotate it 90 degree anti-clockwise. In this case what we do is that let's imagine first of all that the point lies somewhere here in the first quadrant. Tell me what is the point, the coordinate. This is our x-axis, this is minus x, this is y, and this is minus y. So now coming back to the point, we can say for example this point is somewhat like x and y, as it is in the first quadrant, so x and y both will be positive. If the coordinate is rotated 90 degree clockwise along the line, along the graph, then what happens is that we switch 90 degree anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise, as we all know, is like this. So we move 90 degree anti-clockwise will land us in the second quadrant. Now in the second quadrant, if we see what is the new x, the x coordinate is negative, so that would be negative x, and the y coordinate is positive, so we will have a y coordinate. So the new points in second quadrant after 90 degree anti-clockwise would be negative x and y. Perfect. Now what if we have to do a 180-degree rotation? Now see, if the point, as we told earlier, is somewhere here in the first quadrant and we mark it as x comma y, let's start with marking the axis. So this is x minus x, y and minus y. Now if the point is in the first quadrant and we do a 180-degree rotation, now you will notice that there is no clockwise or anti-clockwise mentioned here. This is because 90-degree rotation will land you in the second quadrant, and if you go 180-degree rotation clockwise, so it will land you in the third quadrant. And if you will go 180-degree rotation clockwise, then also you'll land up in third quadrant. That is why there is no need to mention the rotation, whether it is clockwise or anti-clockwise. Now in the third quadrant, the point, if we have the point, then we can say that the x-axis is negative new x-axis and new y-axis is negative y. So we get the final answer of the xy coordinate as negative x and negative y. I hope this is clear now. Now moving along, if we 270-degree anti-clockwise rotation, so anti-clockwise would be this rotation and the point that we have taken lies in the first quadrant, so the point is x comma y. Now after a 270-degree anti-clockwise rotation, the point lands up in second quadrant after 90-degree rotation, third quadrant after 180-degree rotation, and after 270-degree rotation we land up in the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, let's mark the x-axis and y-axis. So x and negative x, y and negative y. So now what is the new x coordinate in the fourth quadrant? Correct, that is positive x. And what is the new y coordinate? That is negative y. So negative y. Hence the new coordinate points would be x comma minus y. I hope this is clear as well. Next we have 360-degree anti-clockwise rotation. The point we have is in the first quadrant. The point is x comma y. Let us mark the axis. So this is x minus x, y and minus y. Now if I do a rotation of 90-degree, I land up in the second quadrant. This is the first quadrant. So after 90-degree rotation of the same point, I land up in the second quadrant. If I do a 180-degree rotation of the same point, I land up in the third quadrant. If I do a 270-degree, all these rotations are anti-clockwise. So if I do a 270-degree rotation of the same point, I land up in the fourth quadrant. The question says 360-degree anti-clockwise. So if I do a 360-degree anti-clockwise rotation, I land up in the same quadrant, since you must know that a complete angle is of 360-degree. So the point lies in the same quadrant itself. So the new x dash would be x and y dash would be y, which gives us a point as x and y. Next, I have a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So now, first of all, let's mark the axis. So x minus x, y and minus y. Second, let's mark the point that we're discussing. So it is x comma y in the first quadrant. The point says 90-degree clockwise rotation, which means that clockwise, that is in this direction, that to 90-degree. That means that the point will lie in the fourth quadrant. Since this is first, this is second, this is third, and this would be fourth. So in the fourth quadrant, the x dash, the new x-axis is x only, and new y-axis is minus y. So the new point after a 90-degree clockwise rotation would be x and minus y. So I hope all this is clear to you. 180-degree clockwise rotation lands you in the third quadrant itself, and if you have a 270-degree clockwise rotation, so it will land you in second quadrant. So it works normally. You just have to keep focus on the rotation that is given and the degrees. Let us now solve a question. It says Find the new points when point 2, 5 is rotated anti-clockwise in a graph at all these angles. So first of all, let's mark the point 2, 5. For that, we have to mark the x-axis and the y-axis. So this is x, y, and minus y. Now 2, 5 would be if I extend this line till 5. So 2 and 5 on the y-axis would be here. So my point would be this one. It says when the point is rotated anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise means in this direction in a graph at 90 degree. Now 90 degree rotation would be in the next quadrant itself. So the point lies in the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, I have the 90 degree rotation. So a 90 degree rotation will give us the new points. So the new points, see, x dash is minus x and y dash is y. So the point would be minus x comma y. X, as we can see here, is 2 and y is 5 in the question. Have a look. So the new points would be minus 2 comma 5. Similarly, for 180 degree rotation. Now after 180 degree rotation, it lies in the third quadrant. Now here x dash is minus x and y dash is minus y. So B is 180 degree, hence it is minus x. The point is minus x and minus y. Now let's substitute the value of x and y and I get the point as minus 2 and minus 5. I hope this is clear. Now next it says 270 degree rotation. So 270 degree from the first quadrant will land you in the fourth quadrant. So in the fourth quadrant, x is x and y is minus y. So the new point that I have are x and minus y. Since I am short of space, as you can see, so what I'll do is I'll write it here. So C is 270 degree, and since the new points are x and minus y, I'll just substitute the value and I get the answer as 2 and minus 5. I hope this is clear to you. I hope it is clear that how to rotate a point anti-clockwise and clockwise in a graph along an axis.